Hola, hola, Ethereans. Parece que ya estamos en vivo. ¿Cómo están el día de hoy? Es un verdadero placer saludarlos el día de hoy, 21 de octubre del 2023. Un día en el que quiero decirles que va a entrar a los libros de historia como una página nueva en la cual la comunidad en México inicia de manera orgánica y colectiva una declaración de nuestro gran interés que tenemos por el avance tecnológico que tanto necesita nuestra sociedad. Hoy con Ethereum México estamos poniendo a nuestro país y a nuestra comunidad muy en alto. Hoy es un día en el que hay que tener mucho de veras ánimo porque tenemos la oportunidad de crear una definición nueva de nuestra sociedad a través de la transformación de sus pilares como el dinero, propiedad, leyes y contratos. Ha sido para mí muy inspirador, en serio, ser parte del proyecto Ethereum desde el año 2014, desde aquella conferencia Texas Bitcoin Conference, donde conocí por primera vez el proyecto Ethereum y a su creador. Así es que con mucho orgullo les presento al día de hoy al fundador de este protocolo, que dirigirá unas palabras a ustedes sobre los principales retos que enfrentamos hacia la construcción de uno de los proyectos más importantes de nuestra generación, ya que con Ethereum vamos encaminados hacia la privacidad, libertad y descentralización del Internet. Señoras y señores, con ustedes, Vitalik Buterin. Hey, Vitalik, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Muchas gracias para tu muy buena introducción. Sí, yeah,
Excelente.
es
It's so good to
excelente,
hear you
sí.
talking in Spanish too.
Sí, 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 pero
You know,
sí, no puedo hablar muy bien al hablar, está difícil, pero entendí todo que dijiste.
wow, eso me encanta, de hecho. Así que excelente, me encanta. Listen,
Sí.
Vitalik, I know there's a lot of people like very eager to hear your comments today. I know you have a lot of some insights that you would like to share with us, some critical
Yes.
topics that we need to like focus
Mm.
on. So with this, I'll give you the floor and you have Ethereum Mexico 2023. It's all yours.
Yeah, no, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let me just set things up. Okay, I will switch over to some slides right now. Just 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, system desktop capture, share, output, share. Okay, great. Do you see the slides?
Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect.
Yep. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah. So, I think for the last couple of years have just been a fascinating years of growth and transformation for the Ethereum ecosystem. And I know that obviously, a lot of people have been like disappointed because prices have been fairly flat for the last couple of years, and we've just had all of these situations around like FTX and various other like US exchange related things and other kinds of things so I thought I think it's also really important to talk about like some of the major progress that has been made over the last couple of years and how some of that progress on the technical side and on the ecosystem side can actually translate into a much better Ethereum ecosystem that can do a much better job of serving its users and really serving a lot of the reasons why like those of us who came into crypto are really here for. So I think the biggest thing that has happened over the last couple of years is obviously the switch to proof of stake. So the switch to proof of stake has been a big dream of the Ethereum ecosystem almost since the beginning. So the first proof of stake related blog post that I wrote came out in January 2014, and it was called Slasher. And it really introduced some important ideas that ended up motivating the algorithms and the design of even the proof of stake that we had today. We started really building the current version of proof of stake in 2018. The Beacon chain launched in 2020. And last year, actually, a year and a month ago, roughly, we had the merge, right? So the merge was the last step in switching Ethereum over from proof of work to proof of stake. And it was a very complicated transition. It took a lot of time to develop. There was a lot of testing. There was a huge amount of hard work from all of the developers and client teams that went into it. But as a result, we have a stronger blockchain, a safer blockchain, a much more environmentally friendly blockchain whose electricity consumption dropped from being about as much as a 5 to 10 million person country in Europe to being like basically nothing, like basically about 1,000 times less. There's now over 25 million ETH is staking. The proof of stake chain has been running stably for over a year, and we have even had a successful hard fork after the merge. And there have definitely been like small technical issues, like there was that time a few months ago where it stopped finalizing for about an hour, but like even that did not really interfere with the way that the chain works, right? Like proof of stake stopped finalizing for an hour, but proof of work, like never finalizes at all. So it's been a really big boon to users. Light clients are actually possible now in a way that was really not possible before. And it really set us up for a lot of future things that's going to make Ethereum even better, like data availability sampling and other kinds of improvements in the future. There are challenges to proof of stake as well, right? So the one that is on a lot of people's minds, I think, is improving staking decentralization, right? So it's difficult for people to stake on their own. There have been staking pools that have been getting a fairly large market share, and there's concerns around whether or not like staking might become too centralized if some of these pools get market shares that are even higher. And so there's been a lot of discussion around like how do we make staking actually more friendly to regular users. And I think another one of these issues at the same time, this is not really an issue that has gotten like a lot of public attention on Twitter or Farcaster or any of those like big discussion forums, but just like staking efficiency, right? The staking system in Ethereum still does take a lot of time to verify blocks. It's still pretty complex, and there are interesting opportunities to try to redesign the staking mechanism to try to improve decentralization, give more options to people who cannot be solo stakers in the current format, and even give us benefits like single slot finality, and even ideally at the same time, reduce the amount of signatures that are happening, like even reduce it to something like 10,000 signatures per slot. So some of these ideas are going to involve some level of trade-offs, right? So it might involve changes to the economics. It might involve some changes to the security model, but at the same time, like it's important to remember that right now probably the biggest risk to proof of stake is centralization issues, and whether 51% attacking costs 2 million ETH or 8 million ETH is not really an issue that people are worried about, right? And so making some compromises that might, for example, reduce the cost of attack, but at the same time really reduce the risk of centralization, but still keep the cost of attack very high, is something that is worth considering, right? And these are the kinds of things that the research team has been very actively involved in. I wrote a post about this a few weeks ago. Mike Neuter, one of the brilliant researchers at the Ethereum Foundation, has been thinking about this. Dankrad has been thinking about this. Francesco has been working on single slot finality for a long time. So there is a big opportunity to keep thinking about these things. And I think there's still a desire to really continue improving the proof of stake design, right? Now, proof of stake is one of those things that it's not really visible to regular users unless it breaks, right? And so the goal of proof of stake is not performance. The goal of proof of stake is creating a chain that continues to be stable for its users and that does not break. And this is something that I think the Ethereum community really values, and that's something that the community is, I think, really invested in continuing to make sure that it works well. And so there's just a huge amount of effort that is going in, and that I think will continue to go in on this from all parts of the Ethereum ecosystem to continue improving the Ethereum proof of stake system. Account abstraction. So account abstraction is a topic that is going in a different direction. So this is really about two different kinds of goals. And this is about improving the user experience for regular users and making it easier for regular users to use the Ethereum blockchain directly, right? If it's not practical for people to, and easy for people to use the Ethereum chain directly, people will use centralized services, and people will feel happy with centralized services until one day something happens and the centralized service does something that makes people very, very unhappy, as the ecosystem keeps seeing once every couple of years. And so having a strong chain and decentralized ecosystem that allows users to do the kinds of things that they want to do, whether it's holding assets, whether it's sending money, whether it's participating in DAOs, whether it's having ENS names, being part of decentralized social projects, all of these things are something that just requires some kind of infrastructure that makes the base chain and the layer 2 ecosystem on top of the chain actually easy for people to use and decentralized and secure at the same time. So I've talked about account abstraction many times before and the two kinds of goals that it has: security-related goals, convenience-related goals. Convenience-related goals include being able to pay fees with the ERC20s. So if, for example, you received 100 USDC, but you have not received any ETH, you should be able to use the USDC to pay fees. Sponsored transactions, making it possible to pay fees for other people's transactions. On the security side, having better multi-sig wallets, having better social recovery wallets, key revocation, being able to change the keys that you use, custom signature algorithms. So this makes it easier to use things like the trusted hardware devices that are already in people's phones to really improve the security of people's accounts. And it also gives us a path to quantum safety that we did not have before. And finally, being able to do multiple operations within one transaction is actually a pretty big, both for convenience and for security. So account abstraction has a lot of these different benefits that you can look at from a lot of different angles. And with ERC 4337 and with the layer 2 EVM roadmap, these are all things that are really starting to move forward very quickly now. Multi-sigs and social recovery, right? So I think one of the big challenges for regular users is basically the risk of losing your account or the risk of having your account stolen. It doesn't matter if the interest rate that a DeFi project says that it gives you is 4% or 6%, if your actual rate of return is negative 100%. And so I think the biggest challenge for the ecosystem is making sure that nobody gets a rate of return that is negative 100%. So the way to do user accounts that I think serves the goal of security and in a way that is friendly to regular users and serves the goal of making something decentralized and not having everything controlled by an exchange at the same time is multi-sigs and social recovery accounts. Accounts that require multiple keys, in order to sign off on important operations, whether it's sending large transactions, sending your ENS name, giving recovering control of your account. All of these things should require multiple keys and not just one key, so that if you lose any one key, or that if any one key gets stolen, you are still safe. There are different kinds of guardians. So friends and family, other users can be your guardians, your own other devices. So laptop, phone, extra phone, hardware device can be guardians. Institutional guardians, so companies can all be guardians. And some combination of all of these can help be part of the security for a user's account. Now, doing account abstraction well is an ecosystem-wide effort. This is something that requires cooperation from wallet developers, infrastructure providers, developer tools, all kinds of people. So wallets, applications need to support smart contract wallets, things like ERC 1271, and some of the other new ERCs that are coming out, developer tools, layer twos, privacy infrastructure, MEV infrastructure, authentication methods, lots of different parts of the Ethereum ecosystem really need to be part of this, right? But if we can make this work, then we can really improve security for regular users in a way that really complies well with the values that people in this ecosystem have. Scaling is super important. Nobody will use Ethereum if using Ethereum requires paying a fee of like $5.55 just to send one transaction. So the main scaling strategy that Ethereum is using involves layer twos. And basically higher layer projects on top of Ethereum that benefit from Ethereum's security, but that are not directly part of Ethereum itself. And these projects can still be very secure, but can be much more scalable because you don't need every single Ethereum node to be verifying every single thing that happens inside of them. So the Ethereum higher layer ecosystem can potentially get pretty complicated. So we already have rollups. We have Scroll, Polygon, Tycho, Optimism, Arbitrum, Starknet, Kakarot, amazing projects, and Linnea, many more of them showing up more and more. We also have increasingly interest in intermediate layers, so layers that are between rollups and the layer one. I mean, people have talked about shared sequencing for this. I mean, the thing that I'm personally more excited about is proof merging. Basically multiple rollups being able to combine their proof systems. And so you have one proof for many of them. And that allows many of these rollups to just commit into a layer one much more quickly. We also have validiums. Validiums are projects where proofs of computation and like specifically ZK snarks go on-chain, but data goes off-chain. And so if you're in a Validium, your data is going to be much cheaper, transactions are going to be much cheaper, but the security is a little bit lower. Basically, whoever operates the Validium, they cannot steal your coins and they cannot make invalid things happen, but they can disappear and they can make your coins disappear. So there's a complicated trade-off here. So scaling challenges, right? Proof system security and decentralization. Rollups and Validiums, they both rely on some either fraud proofs or zero knowledge proofs to verify that computation inside of these ecosystems is done correctly. And these systems are verifying really complicated logic that basically involves verifying an entire EVM. This is like a lot of code. It's very complicated. There's a risk that it has bugs. And so right now, almost all of these projects that are running, they do not actually trust the proof system directly. They have some kind of multisig that can override it. And this is good while a project is still young, but over time, we need to move beyond this. And over time, we need to become more actually decentralized. Sequencing decentralization.
Vitalik, do I have you? Hello, hello, are you? Okay.
a lot of different things here, a lot of different things happening here, and your wallet really needs to be able to handle that, right? And this
Okay, I have you back,
sorry,
Vitalik.
yes, you have me back. Okay, great. I
Should we go
shall
back to the screen? Perfect.
yes, that's exactly what I am doing right
Okay, sorry about
now.
that.
Okay, yes, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so if you basically, wallets really need to do a much better job of natively supporting users jumping between all kinds of layer 2 projects. This might even involve users having different addresses on layer 2s. Data availability space is another one, right? So we have EIP 4844 coming soon, but the amount of data that it supports needs to be expanded over time. So a lot of really amazing work that's happening in the layer 2 space, which is very important. And this is all being done just so that regular users can have lower fees, right? If Ethereum costs $2 a transaction to use, like very few people are going to use it. If it costs 10 cents a transaction to use, more people are going to use it. And if it costs 0.1 cents a transaction to use, then everyone will use it. So if you're a layer 2 and you're building now, one of the challenges that is worth thinking about is basically, are you going to be a rollup or are you going to be a Validium? And this is a choice that is really important for projects in the ecosystem because we're seeing a lot of interest in enterprise blockchain applications. We're also seeing a lot of interest in independent blockchains becoming layer 2s, right? So Celo announced this about 2 months ago, and other projects, I think, may end up going in a similar direction. And the big trade-off is basically, does data go on-chain or does data go off-chain? If data goes on-chain, you have higher fees, but you have better security. If data goes off-chain, you have lower fees, very close to zero fees, but lower security. And where on the spectrum you need to be really depends on how security demanding an application is, right? So for example, account key stores, systems that manage like basically your keys for your accounts across many layer 2s. Those should be either on a very secure rollup or even on a layer 1 in the short term. High value financial assets better be on a rollup or on a layer 1. ENS names closer to here. Lower value financial activity, things like decentralized exchanges, where there's only a few coins that are being kind of in transit at any one time, more scale demanding, centrally managed ecosystems, so like internal tokens of virtual worlds, more scale demanding, enterprise applications that are not financial, probably should be Validiums, games definitely should be Validiums. So it's important to kind of choose the right choice depending on the trade-offs of a particular application. And for a lot of projects, it's okay to be a Validium for now and switch to being a rollup once blob data space expands, right? So this is one of those trade-offs that I expect a lot of projects are going to make. Like they're going to be a Validium in the short term and being a rollup in the longer term. And I think this is something that is totally fine. Scaling individual applications. So ENS has this scaling strategy called CCIP that allows ENS records to be on layer 2s and then have proofs of that get verified. So this is something that is still in the process of being built, and we're probably going to see more and more things like this appear in the future. And privacy, right? So privacy is one of these really important topics for Ethereum because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize is important until they suddenly realize that, wait, it's actually very important. Privacy is valuable, but privacy is also something that especially as the world quickly digitizes, we're very quickly losing, right? So there's a lot of discussions around CBDCs and moving to a cashless society. And one of the things that this really does, unfortunately, is that it destroys a form of privacy of cash that our civilization has had for thousands of years. And so if the crypto space can really come together and create a vision for how financial transactions could happen in a way that does actually preserve privacy, which is something that I've been spending a lot of time on, other people have been spending a lot of time on, and there's been a lot of like interesting projects in improving privacy and preventing like limiting bad actors' ability to use the system at the same time. And these are things that with zero knowledge proofs are like actually very possible to do. But this is just a space that we need to really continue working on and focusing on. Privacy is not just for coin transfers. Privacy is also important for account abstraction and for guardians. Like a lot of people are okay trusting their friends to help them recover an account, but those people do not want their friends to see all of their activity. And so being able to have a guardian without letting that guardian see everything that you're doing is also very valuable. Privacy of things like identity and reputation, being able to prove that you have something like a Pope token, a token in the proof of attendance protocol, or some other kind of attestation without revealing all of your information is very important. And so there's a lot of privacy applications in all of these areas. And this is all using technology that has existed only for about 5 years, and that has only really been practically possible to build within the last 1 or 2 years. I think one of the big things that's important to appreciate is just how much zero knowledge proof technology has progressed over the last 5 years. It's progressed from something where to participate in the ecosystem at all, you need to have a huge amount of understanding of cryptography, advanced mathematics, technology. But to participate in this today, it has become much easier. It's become much closer to just you needing to be a developer. And there's a lot of brilliant teams like the privacy and scaling team, the CIRCOM team, the Zero X Spark team, a lot of Xocrates, a lot of different teams that have really done a lot to bring us to where we are today. But the result of this is that building applications with privacy built in is much easier than it ever was, which I think is amazing. And this is something that we as an ecosystem really needs to build on top of. So I think my conclusion here is that one of the big things that we really need to focus on this next decade is just keeping the base layer robust and keeping the base layer stable, but at the same time, cautiously expanding a few aspects of its capability, right? Increasing the amount of data space that it has, EIP 4844, to better support layer 2s and rollups, potentially enshrining a few other capabilities, maybe the ZK EVM, maybe not the ZK EVM, some aspects of staking, potentially just improving EVM capabilities in other directions, but really doing this kind of slowly and carefully and in a way that still preserves decentralization and preserves openness and stability above everything else. There's a complicated balance of making something that is friendly to regular users, but still providing the benefits of decentralization. And to me, I think this is really the thing that the Ethereum ecosystem is in a good place to provide. Like, I think there are other ecosystems that value decentralization, but don't give a crap about user experience for anybody except for like extreme tech geeks that really deeply care. And then there are other ecosystems that basically say, oh, decentralization is just a dumb ideology. We're going to just focus on building a product for users. And I think that's an approach that it feels appealing to some people, but it's risky and it works until it doesn't work. And so I think there's room for this compromise approach that really actually does the hard work and actually really tries to achieve the benefits of both. And I think the Ethereum ecosystem is in a really good place to actually provide that. The technology is important and the ecosystem is both important, right? So people that are working on really building this technology are doing a really good, important and valuable job of actually doing this work. And the people building out the ecosystem and building applications, just building communities, bringing in developers, just doing all of the other aspects of this are also doing a really important part of the work here. And all parts of this ecosystem are important, and it's something that I think I hope can continue to collaborate and collaborate better over time. And so if we do all of those things, then I think the Ethereum ecosystem is going to be in a really good position to, to really make the world, like a more open and free place where people everywhere are more free to participate, both as users and as builders that are building all of the pieces of the ecosystem that are making things happen. And I hope this is something that people in both Mexico and everywhere in Latin America and the world can be part of. So thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much, Vitalik, for that like really thorough presentation. Like these past few minutes, I believe they have been like really, really useful as a guidance, as some kind of like, some kind of insights, like just to strengthen the Ethereum ecosystem. It was really great. I know everybody in Mexico is very, very interested to, like share those insights. And, I have a question for you. After this keynote speech, addressing the most critical parts of Ethereum, I want to ask you something about the future, and you can go as futuristic as you want. Don't worry about it. How would you define Ethereum success? In the next 5 to 10 years after overcoming these challenges? Do you see it onboarding like 1 billion people, running an Ethereum node on your phone? How do you define Ethereum success as a coordination layer on a planetary scale?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. And I think especially right now, like I think, there has been a lot of discussion just even beyond the crypto space about just like what a bright future for humanity is going to look like, right? And I mean, A16Z published that, their techno-optimist manifesto last year, which is, like their opinion on on that would look like. And a lot of people have made their reactions to that. And so I think it's valuable to like think about what is crypto's role in all of that going to be. And I think the crypto space is definitely in a very unique place because I think it is a tech ecosystem, right? So, we're not Luddites. We are not people who dislike technology or even are particularly afraid of technology. Where I think this is not the sort of ecosystem that thinks that, if something makes the world more digital, it's a Black Mirror episode and we need to be afraid of it. But at the same time, it's unique in how people in Ethereum and the crypto space in general, we think about things like governance, we think about kind of political issues and issues of not just kind of making a more powerful future, but making a more open future really seriously. And I think those values are there, and I think it's good that those to have those values really kind of contributing to that discussion. But then, in terms of what things the ecosystem and the technology can really do to participate in that, I mean, to me, one of the big things, first of all, is just making it possible to build all of these really important base layers in a way that doesn't, just entrench centralized power more, right? Sure. Basically everything that is being built today, outside of kind of this small ecosystem and a few other ecosystems, whether it's the metaverse or whether it's AI or whether it's just some of these newer collaboration tools, all of it's being done in a way that really entrenches power in one place. That's usually in Silicon Valley, sometimes in Beijing at the technical layer. And the crypto space can really build infrastructure that creates an alternative to that keeps more power in the hands of users, that keeps more ability to kind of both stay in control as a user and participate as a developer in the hands of regular people. And this is something where that needs to actually be built, right? And if there's even one application that can grow to 1 billion users or even to 100 million users, then there could be more, right? And in order for that to happen, like, we need lower fees, we need better user experience, we need to like really be competitive with the centralized stuff, while at the same time, like not losing our soul and not just becoming a copy of the thing that we're trying to compete against. So I hope that that's something that we do, right? I hope that, there is a billion-person Ethereum application, but at the same time, Ethereum doesn't lose its soul. And I think we're in a very good position to actually do that.
Absolutely. I would say that we are gearing Ethereum, it's pushing towards a more solar punk future instead of a cyberpunk dystopian, future, like under massive surveillance and lack of privacy. So definitely a much brighter future that we can look into. The second question I have for you, it's about philosophy. There is a phrase that says that philosophy is the connection between the ancient world and the modern world. So with this in mind, what are your thoughts about these old Greco-Roman philosophies, such as Stoicism, to help us create a new version of the classical Renaissance? And what role would Ethereum play in the upcoming digital Renaissance of the 21st century? That's like a movement that I would always push. So I would like to hear your thoughts about philosophy.
Yeah, I think especially when you go and look back to like some of the more ancient philosophies. Whether it's Greco-Roman or even some of the things, like from China or India, like a lot of them are just, like saying very similar things, and it's just very similar insights that like come up again and again, right? The value of like not just having a healthy body, but also having a healthy mind. The value of respecting people's freedom and like recognizing that it's not just like the top of society, but it's also the bottom that really has intelligence and wisdom that that needs to be taken into account. Like even there's even ancient Chinese philosophers saying those things. There's a lot of just thinking about some of these like deep political questions and like what the kind of different forms of politics are, where there's some things that are improving and then there's other things that kind of go in cycles. I think it's it's important to think about those things. I think also, to me, the value of kind of going back in history and sort of going outward in history at the same time is just kind of reminding ourselves about what kind of diversity is possible. Right. It's if you don't do that, then it's like easy to think that like we have these particular values and we have these particular concepts of rights, and there's like particular types of like parliament and court systems that are there to try that are the only way to achieve those things. And once you kind of stretch out more, like you start to learn the difference between what kinds of things are like really are the universals and what kinds of things like we actually needs to like really broaden our minds on. And there's like actually a lot of different ways to do things and think about things. And I think just having that kind of mindset is super valuable, especially as we start entering upon a future that's going to be radically different from our present.
Absolutely. That's kind of like what we hope for, So a different future. This is a different question, like a little bit more technical. It's about interoperability. There's a lot of blockchain projects around, like L1s or the Ethereum killers and so on. So do you see Ethereum eventually overtaking them all? Or do you see a future of interconnected blockchain networks where even Bitcoin could possibly be run on an Ethereum shard in the future?
Yeah, I think this is going to be different for different projects, right? I think we've seen Celo start to announce that they're transitioning to becoming a layer 2, which I think at first means like a multi-sig, and then over time is going to mean being a Validium. And then, I mean, who knows, probably eventually a roll-up, maybe if like the data blob space and with EIP 4844 actually becomes large enough to handle them. And making that actually happen is obviously on us as a research team. So I think but then at the same time, there's other projects that kind of really value, like their independence and are just kind of trying different hypotheses, right? So like I view Bitcoin in that way, right? Like Bitcoin is like the Bitcoin ecosystem does have a lot of different values from the Ethereum ecosystem. It's stuck with proof of work. It's much more extreme than we are on keeping the layer one functionality pretty minimal, and it's more okay taking trade-offs of the layer two being more centralized as a result of that, and different issuance schedules, different on a lot of things, and that's like. In that case, it probably doesn't make sense to try to like force Bitcoin on top of Ethereum or force Ethereum on top of Bitcoin. I think it's it's good to have the two ecosystems running on different philosophies, because I think if you have two different groups of people that have different philosophies, then like if you try to force them to be together, then they often just end up fighting. But if you force them to realize, or if you give them room to realize their own visions separately, and you have a little bit of distance, then like that's the way to create peace, and like sometimes even the way to create more collaboration over time. So that, I mean, I think it depends on the individual project. I think there's definitely a lot of projects that are not going to be successful, but that's inevitable in any ecosystem, right? Like 90% of all businesses fail, and that's going to be true here and anywhere. And in some case, there isn't any kind of choice that can like being a separate layer one or being a separate layer two that can save them. And that in some cases, the important thing isn't that. The important thing is like figuring out a way to make sure that they're actually serving some community that really values what they're doing. But like in some cases, like whether or not they're part of the Ethereum ecosystem does make the difference. So I think it's very case by case. I mean, I think like in Ethereum, we obviously we always love wanting to be like as friendly as possible with and build a good and stronger relationship with projects that like do share our values. I mean, not the Ponzi's. Ponzi's should be as far away from Ethereum as possible, right?
Absolutely.
But projects that share our values, but like it's ultimately up to like each individual user and each individual team.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those insights as well. I would like to ask you, just to get to know you as a researcher on a more personal level, what kind of research topics are you focused on right now? And how much time of your day do you dedicate to Ethereum? And if you have any other projects that you're working on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think within Ethereum, the big thing that I've been focused on is like some account abstraction and some of these like proof of stake issues that I talked about. Outside of Ethereum, I mean, I definitely, see it as being part of my job to kind of stay abreast of this, like bigger world, both, like tech and just like what's happening in the world, and just make sure that I understand it and have a clear idea of like where Ethereum can be used, can continue to be valuable in the context of all these other things existing, right? And so like I do keep looking, look into AI. Like I've been looking into like different kind of biotech sectors, just because I think like curing diseases and is just especially airborne diseases recently is just like super important for like human health as well. So I do my best to be like stay aware of those ecosystems and look for opportunities for like collaboration between the Ethereum world and those other worlds where I can as well.
Absolutely. This has been a great talk, Vitalik. Thank you so much for sharing, the presentation, and also for taking these questions, like just to get to know you, like on a more personal level. Thank you so much for joining Ethereum Mexico 2023. It's been a great pleasure to have you with us. And I hope you can come back to Mexico soon,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will let you know, next time I am in Mexico or Latin America, and I look forward to seeing you guys in person.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Así que adiós a toda la banda en Ethereum México, adiós y pásenla súper bien en el after party. Amanos, thank you so much, Vitalik. This is great.
Okay, muchas gracias. Okay.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Pásenla bien. Chao.
Chao.